Dan, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm just setting the lights in the kitchen.
Okay, I didn't know if you were talking to me or not. You talking to your lights?
Yeah, Alexa, dim lights.
Sorry, I didn't find a group or device with lights.
Melissa's lighting's better than yours.
All right, I'm through talking to my lights.
Tell her what I just said.
So Melissa, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. I was away from the computer and stuff like that. It was glorious.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, Gretchen.
Hello. Thanks for having us on tonight.
Thanks for joining.
Sure. So I understand Dan Higgins will also be coming. And he has some information to share, which I think you'll be interested in. So are you familiar with Dan?
Dan, what, sorry, who was that?
Dan Higgins is the
Oh.
municipal sales coordinator for Wakefield.
Nope, don't know who he is.
Okay. Well, I guess you'll meet him tonight. If you don't mind.
He probably talks to DPW, right?
I'm going to guess so if you don't know him then.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Let's start with public participation. So anybody from the public who wants to speak and unmute and talk at this time.
Yeah, hi, this is Paul Rybicki. I'd be happy to talk about the vote and my concerns.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I guess I would start off by pleading with you guys to join with the rest of the people who are advocating a shift away from the plan today is option C3, which is the maximum forest destruction with the half-mile driveway. So my concerns as I spoke on the August 24th design review was we have a north-facing building with going to be 100 steps to get into the building. There's going to be 700 foot of ramps. It's going to be a 6-month planned blasting.
They need to go.
And in 6 months is the planned blast. That's just unfathomable what they're going to do to destroy a beautiful piece of property when the feasibility study that was done at the initial analysis said, don't even look at the hillside. And here we are. I'm stunned that we're still on track to spend $500 million probably in the end. We're currently at 318 million, but that'll probably never happen at 318. But the real deal is from a land use perspective, it seems like a huge mistake for the students for the next 50 to 100 years to have all of those stairs blasting the top of that hillside is just going to be a nightmare for the kids and for the neighbors. And 6 months is a real long time of blasting. And if you look at the geotech, it says in there on page 19, it says the topsoil, the forest mat, the subsoil, the existing fill are not suitable for anywhere on the property. They have to be removed from the footprint plus 5 feet. So it's a stunning amount of environmental devastation. If you look at the site from Google Maps, Google Earth, there seems to be a better way to do it. And other people are yelling and screaming. And from a land use perspective, I'm stunned that we're in a situation where the 60 acres that the school was given will be essentially completely developed. And we're going to lose, over 2,000 trees, 13 to 15 acres of land, and added expense because of the 31 feet of the hillside being blasted, which will be another nightmare that will never go smooth because some of that rock there is exceptionally hard. And the geotech says it takes up to 221 minutes to drill a foot through the bedrock. So 221 minutes to drill through 1 foot of bedrock. Wait until they stop blasting the hillside and the other headaches that come raining along with that. And please look at and consider spreading the word to save the money, build the Vogue, but don't put it on that hill.
So Paul, I'm just curious if your group has alternatives for people to consider.
I'm actually been kind of unaffiliated. I think there's some excellent people out there. The alternatives at this point are clear. The initial analysis, as I understand, that was done back in 2015, clearly said, don't build on the hill because it's just not sensible to do such. Why we're in this situation now that they're looking at spending an incredible amount of money to blast the hillside and remove 14 acres of forest to completely change the entire microclimate and that environment, completely devastated for forever. That development can't be undone. So the options are simple. I believe that the Senator Lewis has already confirmed that the money can be spent without being lost on the other options. There's been people saying, hey, we can not put the driveway in for half mile. We can put a bridge over the wetlands at Breakheart for 30 feet and not devastate it. Makes a lot more sense in my eyes to take a second look at the entire project. But I know it's the 23rd hour. I have only been involved a short time, stumbling into people while hiking. And the more I hear about this and the more I've heard from the proponents, I've been very dismayed. And, when I ask them, what about sidewalks? And they tell me, well, we really don't want kids walking on the driveway. That's not a good answer. And when there's somebody in the team and they say, hey, we're concerned about this hill and what it's going to do to the students and to the campus. And this is at the design review and says, could the committee members from the building committee disclose how many have actually walked the site? And the answer was given at the meeting that they just bought a 4-wheel drive truck. So, a lot of stuff was done on Zoom. If you don't walk the site, you're spending $300 million and you don't know what you're getting. If you look at what's on the, pictures, the drone flyover, all of the animations are fantasy. They don't show what's really happening, which is, 34-foot cliffs in front of the building, because you got hundreds of feet of sheer rock wall with catchment zones to catch the falling rock that is supposed to be 15-foot wide. So why you would want to have catchment zones and the safety issues of blasting a hillside to wind up with this is just, it's incredible that we're really talking about it. I see it in such a different light, I think, than many others. I just say C3 is insane. It's a waste of money. It's a burden on the two biggest sending communities. There are way better options to go look at C2. And really 6 months of blasting, that's a lot of blasting. That's 180 days. And you know what? I'm a project manager and I develop communication sites for the federal government and for the state police and for Logan Airport and other locations. And those things don't usually finish ahead of schedule. So if they tell you 6 months for this or $318 million, when you look at this 5 years from now, it's probably not $318 million that's going to be spent on that. And let's get it right. And the kids climbing 100 steps, does that sound safe? I asked about it at design review and they said, hey, they've actually verified that they can insure it. And I said, that's not the right answer, that you can insure it. I said, is that the best we can do for the taxpayers and the students? If you go ahead and put in 101 steps to get in, people are going to fall. People are going to get hurt. I've already had grandparents tell me that they're just not simply going to be able to get in the school. And I said, well, there's going to be great handicap access. Yeah, but I'm not handicapped. So why are they really looking at this? I can't even imagine why. I think there's clearly been misinformation in the paper, the Revere Journal and other papers, not much awareness of what's really being purchased for $300 million. And again, I asked on the website, I said, please provide a photo simulation like I have to do when I build something. I want a photo sim that shows us what it looks like from the lower campus, looking at the upper campus. That's what's desired. And what came back was more animation, no reality, profile of the hill, but it doesn't show people what's going to happen when you spend $300 million and they say, oh my God, I don't want to be doing this. And then the unintended consequences of that half-mile driveway, once you put that in with the rotary or whatever access down there, there's going to be more kids dropping off, more kids skateboarding through there. There's going to be a lot more issues that is just not well thought out. And, they're trying.
Oh, sorry to cut you off, but I just want to make sure other people get a chance to speak. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We're definitely aware of it. And, we will advocate however we need to advocate for other alternatives that make sense. So do you want to get in touch with us after the meeting and send along, what your call to action is? That would be helpful.
No problem. I've already met with Steve Mayo and handed him a letter. I'll just send you guys the same letter from my wife and I, basically
Okay.
where we stand.
Thank you. Anybody else for public participation? Linda?
Hi, I just wanted to say that you asked about other options with respect to what are the alternatives. There were 3 options submitted already from the current architects. And the option of building on the football field is basically where people already think the school is going. Very few people know that the forest is going to be destroyed. And in the meeting where they discussed the options, they said, building on the football field achieves the district's educational program goals and would allow the existing school to remain in operation throughout construction with minimal disruption. However, this option was eliminated because of site constraints, including the undesirable disruption of current athletic fields anticipated during construction. So what we have here is the destruction of really an astonishing ecosystem in order so that students do not have to share athletic fields with neighboring Wakefield or the 12 other sending communities. This makes no sense. And I would be happy to send you documentation.
Yeah, that would be great. Robin, I don't know, you've been following this closer than I have, if you have anything to add.
I mean, so I know that it's in the final stages of design, but they do not have all their town permits. I was able to listen to part of their presentation, I think it was last week, with the Conservation Commission. It continues that there was no votes or decisions. So people's opportunity to speak continues because they need that approval to finish the project. I don't know. And also, I guess traffic is unresolved as well. So there are still other public meetings directly related to it. I haven't been able to see any advertisement of the school project itself have public meetings. I just see the permitting groups have them.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the public participation in this process has been pretty slim, as far as I can tell. So unfortunately, that's how it's been going. But yeah, everybody who's on this call that wants, the ESC to, consider other options, please send us your information.
Okay, thank you. And I would be delighted to ask or show you the forest trails. There's an astonishing trail system. The 13 acres actually goes through 5 different habitats. The floristic quality assessment is 43, where over 35 is exceptional. Just on the basis of vegetation alone, we should be making an effort to save this forest, let alone the population of whippoorwills that hadn't previously been documented, which is a rapidly declining species in Massachusetts, and it's a remarkable finding. So please reach out. The website is nemtforest.org, and I'm happy to organize walks at any time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else for public participation? Okay, let me share my screen with the agenda. So next is approval of minutes from October. Hopefully everybody was able to review those. So motion to approve.
I motion to approve the amended minutes that were distributed.
Second.
Was that Julie that second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Dan? You're on mute.
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tiana?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Eileen?
Sorry, I don't know if you're saying my name. I'm in the car, so.
Oh, no, it was just if you had a chance to review the minutes, we're just going through the approval.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. Minutes are approved. Next item is just recap of the pumpkin collection and candy wrapper collection that we had yesterday. So it was I think success, I would say, as far as the pumpkin collection. Not as well as with the wrapper collection, but I think we're learning from this year, and we'll try again next year. But yeah, we had, you know, like 365 pumpkins, and all of the schools, you know, were pretty up there as far as how many they collected, depending on the size of the school. And I think it was a great event, and Black Earth was really accommodating with driving around to all the schools with us. And yeah, so just to let everybody know, the candy wrapper collection box will be at Town Hall, so it's gonna stay there until it's full. I'm not sure how full it is at this point with all the other.
Yeah, I haven't yet consolidated from the boxes that came back from the pumpkin drop yesterday, but I will at some point in the next few days and bring
Okay.
it over. I would guess based on what's in those boxes that we're at 20% full. And I'll promote more online as well as folks are getting through their Halloween candy.
All right,
Melissa, how are your arms? Are they as sore as mine are?
no,
Oh. Didn't expect picking up that many pumpkins would I'd feel it this morning.
it was a good workout for me and Robin. So yeah, I think for next year, we probably just need to be a little more proactive with advertising, and especially with the candy wrappers collection, so. But if anybody asks, you know, you can still drop off your wrappers at Town Hall. The box is right in the lobby. Next item, we have special guests from Public Services, Gretchen Carey and Caitlin Smith. So we brought them in here today to talk about the waste services in Wakefield, and had some questions that we sent ahead of time. If anybody has other questions, feel free, but I think Gretchen, you can kick it off.
Sure. Thank you very much for the invitation this evening. And yeah, I'd like to, so I am the Recycling and Organics Coordinator from Republic Services. And as you probably know, we recently acquired JRM, and thus I have invited Caitlin, who is the Recycling Coordinator from JRM. And so she is actually the one who has provided some of the information this evening that you're going to look at in terms of figures for the trash and recycling. And we'll both be here to answer questions and work together. I also wanted to see if Dan Higgins, are you on tonight?
Yep, I'm here. Hey, Gretch.
Terrific. Okay, so let me, I took the liberty of inviting, and absolutely we're, you know, not going to run over time. So you let us know what our parameters are here. Okay, we don't mean to take over the meeting, but Dan Higgins is your municipal sales executive. So he is the person who has done the contracting with your town, and yeah, has a different angle on a lot of the information. So Dan, do you want to give a few words?
I've been with the company for a while. I work with, I support all of New England, so I work with the municipal contracts throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. Great.
So yeah, so Dan knows all about your contract, and you know, if you have questions about service and things like that, big questions, not day-to-day questions, but or if you have issues, he's a good person to talk to. So, all right. You had some questions. Did you want to go through those, or do you want to just ask people if they have questions first?
I don't know if you want to go through that data that you sent me.
Sure. Caitlin, do you want to take
the co-host? So
thank you.
So I actually don't have like the exact numbers right in front of me with the different months to months, but I do want to say that the contamination is an estimate. And with that being said, I do feel that there's more, you know, we can always do more improvement, and we definitely have, you know, moving from JRM into Republic Services definitely is giving us a push to clean up the recycling and be able to educate a lot more and give a lot more support, which I'm actually really excited for, to be able to work with Gretchen and give that support to the towns and things, and just be able to clean it up some more. But I do want to say that contamination is like a guesstimate, with the reporting. I don't get the numbers. I did kind of get that from a third party and kind of pushed it along. So I don't get the day-to-day numbers, but that is something, if you needed a specific, spreadsheet or anything like that, we can certainly adapt that, as needed.
Do you mind, Melissa, putting up those numbers, or if you wanted to share those? What I was encouraged by is the fact that Caitlin put together the year after year amount of trash and recycling, but the total percentage of the recycling and how contaminated it was what struck me, was that it had significantly improved year after year, which is a great thing and not to be taken lightly. So, and yes, I will say Republic has a higher bar when it comes to contamination. So we have expectations and a desire to educate to improving that contamination number. So, so here are the numbers, 2022, and of course there's the municipal year. Do you mind going back to, so here you can see 20%, it seems to be a steady number here. But if you go back a year, go back one more year. Okay, 25, 27. And if you go back a year before that, it's much higher, 40s, 35s, that sort of thing. So consider that good, for sure.
Do you
And
know like reasons behind that? Any idea?
I definitely think more of the education that was coming out, especially statewide. A lot of, statewide pushes for that education, and the helps with the grants to be able to get that education out to the residents, I think is one. Gretchen, do you have others?
no, but I will say that in 2018, we went from every municipality having their own set of recycling rules to a statewide set of guidelines, which has made it infinitely easier to both educate to and to be educated on. It's much simpler now. And I feel as though that word has gotten out in different ways. I know I myself educated relentlessly to that for the 2 years prior to COVID. And even if it wasn't in Wakefield itself, every surrounding town and businesses and churches and you name it. And so I think that the news spread, I guess, is a good way to put it, because we've seen that come down in a lot of places.
And I can just add to that, the contamination percentage, and the way that is established is that a sampling of the loads that are coming from the town are put on the floor, and estimates are done based on how much trash is on particular load. So it's not every load, it's an estimate that's done in the industry. The trucks are not weighed separately for the components. It's an estimate done based on a visible checking of the load on the floor. So it's an approximate number. The other thing is that our Republic has a website that can be real helpful, recyclingsimplified.com. That's a free website for anybody to use. It gives a lot of pointers. There's really good, small, short videos about recycling. And then there's a whole educational program in there written by educators that could be used from K through 12 for any town. It's open to any town that wants to use it.
Yep. The only thing I will caution is it is a national resource. Therefore, there are going to be a few things that may or may not be matching in Massachusetts. So for instance, the national recycling list doesn't include glass, because that's in many states, glass is not in the recycling. So I'll just caution that, but we'd be happy to work with you on coming up with a version that matches what we do in Massachusetts. If you see a resource that you're interested in, and doesn't quite match Recycle Smart, please let us know.
Yeah, anybody chime in? Don't have to raise your hand.
I'm curious on the contamination. I feel like I've heard that a contaminate, like if I put the wrong thing in my barrel, the whole load is contaminated and the whole load doesn't get recycled. Is that true? How does
Sure.
tell us more about contamination and
Sure.
what are the worst offenders? What are the things, if only people would stop putting gosh darn grocery bags in their recycle, it would solve the world.
Sure. Okay. Great question. So really, if you throw in a wrong item, let's say it's black plastic, which our optical sorters can't see, and let's say you throw in a clean container of black plastic, that is not going to get your load failed. Okay. If somebody throws in several half-filled jars of tomato sauce and it gets all over everything, that's a bigger problem. We're going to look at that and go, wow, that's not attractive, not good recycling at all. And, can't wash that, can't salvage that paper, that kind of thing. If people throw in black trash bags, all right, that's clearly not recycling, or at least, we don't want the bags. We don't want clear bags. We don't want grocery bags, but we really, really don't want trash. So black trash bags simply is kind of a poke in the eye, and it doesn't go over well. So that would get the attention of and potentially precipitate a fail. So that's really what we're looking for, is those really egregious food bags and black plastic. Those are the top. And also textiles. People regularly confuse reuse with recycling, and they're not the same thing. So donation bins are the home for that, but we don't want them because they become tanglers. Tanglers are another thing that we can see easily. So you're talking about ropes, chains, textiles, which is shirts with long arms, make a mess of our machinery.
Christmas lights is a new
Christmas,
one.
Christmas lights. I was going to say that's this time of year. That's a biggie. So those are the things that will cause, if a couple people put that in, that starts making a mess really quickly of the load.
And
Okay.
it has to be pretty significant for the whole load to be, and normally you don't see that with residential. But the other thing is that, as Gretchen said, the tanglers, especially the plastics and those type of materials, are dangerous for us because they end up shutting the lines down to get caught up, and people have to go in and work on the lines. And I can send you some pictures, Melissa, of some of the lines with just plastic bags around them.
Yeah, I've seen those pictures.
Yeah, and the other most dangerous thing is propane tanks and batteries that may get into recycling, and they start going through those sorters. It can cause some very dangerous conditions for the folks running the plant.
Great point, Dan. Yeah. So those are dangers as opposed to fails, because we do have lots of people working the line.
So I have a comment.
Sure.
I think it's not a problem of people putting the wrong things in. I think it's a problem of people being educated. I think people want to do the right things. Okay, so how best do we educate the community to do the right things?
I have a suggestion. I've done this before with other municipalities, where we run an event, a presentation on recycling with all the answers. Let's put it that way: where it goes, what we do with it, how the system works, why do we say yes or no to things. And I do a presentation that's about an hour, and you can use host it in your library, your town hall, wherever it is that you have a space, but encourage people to come. And you'd be surprised. Well, you may not be surprised, but a lot of people come to this because they really want to know those answers. And, is recycling dead? Was NPR right? So no, the answer is no, but, that is one way to get the word out to the people who really want it. And I have a presentation that is geared around explaining why about everything, instead of yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It's, that doesn't stick to anyone's brain. But if I tell you why you should or should not put it in, people go home remembering that much better.
I think that would be fantastic. Even just at the couple of town events that we've been at, we've had tables at Town Day and the farmers market, and just telling people, know that black plastic can't be recycled because of the optical sorter. You can see the light bulbs happening.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I think that sounds like a fantastic presentation. I'd love to help. make that happen.
The other thing is you're welcome to record it and put it on your website.
Right.
So anybody who doesn't catch it then can catch it later, you know, or if you have a local cable access television, run it occasionally, that kind of thing.
And our Recycling Simplified site has a bunch of small vignettes that can be put on cable or the town website, 30 seconds, clean, sort, dry, just some really good vignettes that kind of really simplify it for people when you want to learn something.
Great point.
I wanted to build on Dan's question. I mean, one thing that I've noticed, and I'm all for positive messaging, but I agree with Dan. People want to do the right thing, and I think this is a place where actually it's appropriate to have some negative messaging, because I think people who are well intentioned, it's easy for them to say, "Oh, I'm actually making things harder for the folks at JRM and harder for the town and harder for everyone." Like, this is where we're all aligned, right? What's bad for your bottom line is bad for the, it's bad for the town's operations, it's bad for the environment, right? So, and I'm a little frustrated when I go to our own town site, other things, and we go to the, what's it called? The Recycle Smart MA site. And it's all very like, look this up, look that up. And I kind of feel like a top 10 list of things that shouldn't go in the recycling that you might think should go in the recycling.
Sure.
And I've seen the thing on the JRM site about like, okay, here's something, but you keep the list short because I think you're trying not to overwhelm people.
That's right.
And so I do think there's a little bit of room for like, hey, don't recycle this, don't recycle that. And
I am a no nonsense gal when it comes to telling people not to recycle certain things.
So, but that Recycle Smart MA page, which is where a lot of towns push people to, unfortunately, is like, you look everything up and it's kind of, and then I had one question too about kind of like my biggest fear in terms of aspirational recycling. I see a lot of people take things where they say, oh, well, this is metal and plastic and you can recycle metal and you can recycle. And so somebody throws in the whole shaving cream can, but it's got rubber and metal and plastic. And my understanding is that you can't do anything with that because, and I don't see any messaging about like these hybrid products and that makes it non-recyclable. And I don't know if that's because you don't find it's worth your time messaging it or towns are worried that if they make it too complicated. But I see a lot of stuff going. I see neighbors who put out 5 boxes of recycling in one garbage can. And I know that some of those items are these aspirational things. So like I said, I'm open for us and some of our messaging, maybe a little bit friendly, but negative. Don't do this.
Yep.
Because I
am a fan. You're absolutely right. And you have to say no. And I that was one of the things I learned earlier on to very firmly say, look, we have a system that is meant to take certain items and we can sort out those items with certain mechanisms. And if you throw in anything other than what we ask for, it will be trash. It will just be more expensive trash because we had to sort it out. That's all. You know what I mean? so that's how I talk.
I would welcome for our communications things, if you give us even if it's not something you would use public facing, if you give us a list of like your 20 worst offenders, I would love to see that. I've been interested on a personal level, but I also think that's where we can, because I agree fully with Dan. The folks who need the education the most are folks who are receptive to it in this case. So some clear negative messaging might go a long way to making this all better. And also what's changed from 5 or 10 years ago, because I hear you say the NPR reporting is overly negative, but obviously some things have changed in your larger business model and what happens downstream from you. I think if there's clear messaging on, we don't put this in the recycling anymore because we can no longer do the things we could do or the price points have changed.
Right. Yep. No, that's too. No, I'd be happy to come up with a top 10 list or, that sort of thing of what we really don't want. If you are interested, and this is for you, and you're welcome to pass this along, but so I'm the president of a statewide nonprofit organization called Mass Recycle, so massrecycle.org. And if you are interested in deep diving on some of this information, wonderfully, because it is a statewide, guidance on recycling, I have a podcast. And we're on episode 36. It's my vice president and I. So we have done deep dives on lots and lots of things like, what's in the bin now after 2018 and why did certain things fall out, right? Why do we take things that we didn't before, and why do we not take things that we used to? And so for your own sake, we can, you might be interested in that. So it's called the Mass Recycle Podcast. It's available on iHeartRadio and Apple Podcast. I feel like the people that end up coming to these talks are what we call the alpha recyclers. The ones who are most likely that, they're non-professionals, but they're really, really engaged and really interested. And if you speak to them the right way, they'll get the message, and they are the ones who are going to go out and teach other people. So they're definitely the ones that you want to educate, right? And I tend to do it on two levels where I'll say, okay, that the general rule is this. For instance, if you look at Recycle Smart MA, look at the top line. If you don't see it there, don't throw it in. All right. If you don't want to think about recycling too much, don't throw it in if you don't see it there. If you're willing to listen to my talk for an hour, I'll give you a few other things that you could throw in, or I'll explain why we would take the tin foil, or, these other things that are not necessarily shown on the top of Recycle Smart. So it's kind of a bonus round for anybody who is really into it and wants to come and watch.
Thank you very much.
I was going to say, on that flip end, I did want to mention, there's these oops stickers that, going to each, that the drivers would actually hold. And as they get to these houses that have these contaminants in there, they would mark off, what the contaminant is. Either they'll take it out, leave it in the bin, they'll take the rest of the recycling that's actually clean, depending on, if it's just a little, if there's a lot, that recycling bin will stay full, and the oops bin, the oops sticker will be placed on top of it, and, kind of gives that specific resident. So it kind of gives it a little bit more of a personal note. You're going to find those, people who say that's nice and call it a day and toss the whole thing into the trash. But you're also going to find those people who maybe don't know where to look, don't know where to go, and have that little extra, hey, this is, just FYI, going forward, this is what you're not supposed to put in. If you have any more questions, go to here. And that's where you could do, the Mass Recycles, and Recycle Smart MA. And you can kind of guide them that way. So for the people who are interested and, willing to look, it's there. But the ones that, obviously you can't catch everyone, but that's another option that, I find does work really well with a lot of the towns too, because it also prompts a conversation. It prompts that person to call, especially if their barrel's left. A lot of them, they're a little slightly angry, but it does make them think about it next time, that they don't want their bin left the whole time, because then they have another week with it. So it just kind of, it inconveniences them just a little, but enough to be able to make a statement. So that's something that we could also offer as well, to work with you guys.
Yep, they've definitely found that the education is part of it, and the other half of it is enforcement. I'm telling you what you've done wrong in the nicest way possible, and I'm going to leave it there till you fix it. So, yeah, that works.
And that's in the industry, that's the most effective way of getting the recycling we need to get it to, the enforcement.
Yeah, definitely not.
Another question that has concern that has been raised by a number of residents is recycling for multi-family buildings, and a lot of residents who live in these buildings really wish they could recycle, but the town doesn't, the town services can't go on their property, and I'm just wondering if there's any solutions that you guys offer for that.
I do. I usually take the people who walk up to me and say, my apartment complex doesn't recycle, and this really bothers me. And I say, how do you feel about being a rebel leader? And they're like, okay. And I say, get 3 friends in your apartment building and go and rotate through bothering your property manager and say, recycling is so important to us. How can you not be doing this? Welcome to the modern age. You should be recycling, and just keep visiting. And eventually they'll wear down and they'll do it. That's how I see. That's my theory. So far, it's working pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
but Republic doesn't provide that service for.
Oh, certainly. We recycle. We absolutely do.
But it would just be a private one. That's all.
Right. It's a private pickup. And the problem is we can't go in. I mean, if you had somebody who you were interested in using, let's say you had a few different buildings that were not recycling, and you wanted to let us know about them, we could potentially see if we could find their property manager and offer them a quote on recycling as well as trash or something of the sort. We're certainly game for new business. That's not a problem. So, yeah, what we obviously, we can't make anybody do anything, but at the same time, if you're really serious about this, creating a bylaw for the town saying that, these buildings must also recycle, or at least that every hauler who comes into town must offer recycling, or, it depends on where you're at already, what you've got for bylaws already. But those are both very useful and productive.
Yeah, I know that there's like a really old rule about this. Julie, I don't know if you know more about it.
Yeah, I think it's similar. There was a Boston Globe article on this recently too. You guys probably saw. But it's not uncommon. We should probably look at the bylaw. I mean, I think what happens is developers come in, they don't have to do it. So they keep the costs down, and then they're long gone by the time all the residents move in and they want recycling. So Gretchen, I think your idea of maybe, if there are multiple buildings already in existence in Wakefield, maybe there's an RFP or something to do to try to get, recycling services to them. And then I do agree that in the long run, it really is a bylaw change.
Yeah,
It's very effective.
This
There's a
facilities.
building that has, so like, I totally get that unsponsored, you can't go into private property, but most of these bigger buildings have sidewalks out front. Are they not? I mean, my bin is on my sidewalk. Is the sidewalk in front of an apartment building not public that you could pick up a barrel from?
Usually they would have a dumpster out back.
Mm-hmm.
They would have a much larger container for, assuming we're talking about apartment buildings or even condos, depending on how many piled up there are, it's the multifamily housing usually has a bigger container that all of the people bring their trash, their waste out to in the back. And there are also ways to make that, if for instance, the building is telling you like, we're having trouble keeping our recycling clean, we have some options for that too. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, we could not pick up that recycling with the town trucks. We're not contracted to pick up the multifamily units, but we certainly could pick them up as with an individual contract. It wouldn't be a town RFP with that building. If we have them with trash, we're more than welcome to pick them up with recycling. It's much more efficient for us to have it in a larger container, go there once a week, whatever the time frame is, versus multiple toters or something like that. But we've done all the above. We do all the above somewhere. I know that.
And can you do just the recycle? Like if a building is already contracted with someone else for trash, could they contract with you just for the recycling?
They could.
Potentially. Yep.
They could, yeah.
We prefer both, for sure.
Gets us in the door. We can get.
Yep.
I think to add to that, the going on private property might be getting a little confused with the town trucks, and the town pickup drivers are not. So if someone's barrel is up in their driveway, they are not to walk up the driveway, into the backyard to go get their barrel. It's more of that versus a private location like a condo that we're trying to go to the back parking lot. That's it is private property, but it's a different element, if you will.
Yeah, we'd be likely then if the containers in the back, we go in the back. That's but it would have to be contracted in some way.
Yeah.
Hey, Melissa, can I share a couple of screens if there's not any more questions? It can kind of give you an update on some of our sustainability goals. It does impact some of the things that you're talking about or things that you may be interested in.
Yep, make you co-hosts.
This comes under the heading of good news. Let's put it that way. Moving the needle.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, we have our sustainability goals. We release a report. It's online. I can share it with you if you want to look at it. But we have measurable targets. They involve safety is our number one, but it includes reduction of greenhouse gases, circular economy, which is a 40% reduction in some of the materials and recycling. So I'll kind of go through some of the highlights that. And what we did is we looked at some of the major cities across the country and looked at their climate action plans, and we aligned our goals and our plan with them. So there's things here that, and I can send you a copy of this afterwards. One of the things in the last year and a half, we made a major purchase our acquisitions into the environmental services. We purchase ACV and US Ecology locally. So, we can offer the town of Wakefield, emergency response if there's some type of hazard or spill in the town. We're a state approved vendor, so we offer that to the town. You think of all the businesses in town that potentially could have a hazardous waste type event. So we're available for that. And also curbside pickup of household hazardous waste or events. So we have locations currently in the Northeast that we actually go curbside. It's more of an event thing. We pick it up. So you think about folks that may be moving and they're going to move before the drop-off event, by doing a pickup in the town with scheduled pickups. It's a way to make sure that stuff doesn't end up in the waste stream. Electric vehicles, we have done it. We're the only one in the industry. We're in the process of developing and piloting e-vehicles. We're going to move to e-vehicles in the years ahead. We have a number of vehicles that are currently in use in the Midwest and down south. They're actually on recycling and routes. So we purchased a company that develops the batteries for the e-vehicles. We feel that's the way to go. We have converted a good portion of our fleet to CNG. But we feel long-term e-vehicles is the way to go. So we're talking to our town saying, hey, in the next contract, are you interested in going this way? There's some parameters that it's obviously eliminates greenhouse gases. There's some targeted demand dynamics that have to happen. That if it's a real hilly type town, there needs to be infrastructure at our facilities can repower the vehicles. Incentives with the local power company, incentives with the state. So, some of the West Coast states have major sustainability goals and climate action goals to move to e-vehicles, and we have them in our contract already. So that's just something that that we're working on this, and our intention is convert our fleet to e-vehicles at some point. We have renewable gas from our landfills. We just made a big investment with IKEA and to pull out renewable gases from our landfills and use those on the fleet as well. So we got some major projects that we're invested in currently to reduce greenhouse gases as well. This is I think circularity. I think this is really exciting for us. We're just in terms of what this says that plastic packaging that is collected, about 14 million tons a year. You have the flex packaging, the rigid. Basically, it's almost split in half. Basically, on the left-hand side, you got, when it goes through the process, when that recycling is purchased and it's used by the people who use the raw materials, on the flex packaging, about only 5% of it is actually downcycled into recycling. And the rigid packaging, about 28% of it is recycled and with the beneficial use. And most of that is like your carpeting, your benches, and your piping and things like that. So it's all that commingled that we're picking up on curbside. It goes to be recycled, but it's only recycled once, because you don't recycle carpet, you don't recycle park benches, you don't piping. So it does get recycled and pull out of the waste stream and diverted, but it's only used once. Only 5% is recovered and used again. So what we're going to develop, what we're in the process of building right now, is a polymer center, and the polymer center is going to help us pull out the plastics, the PET, and the olefins out of what is going through our MRFs, and it'll wash them. They call it treat and flake it, and then we'll sell that directly to the bottle and packaging manufacturers. And there's a number of major corporations here have set reuse goals, and we think that the Polymer Center can help many of those buyers who have committed them publicly. It's kind of their written commitments to what they're going to use for recycling. So currently, right now, as they buy bales, their packaging units buy bales of plastic from MRFs across the country, and then they process it all. So a bunch of that ends up not being usable, and they get down back to the flakes. They have the PET and olefin flakes. They get down to flakes that then they can use. So the beneficial use for us is that we have our first one under construction in Vegas, and we're going to build 3 other ones in the U.S. We'll have one here in the Northeast, most likely in that Philadelphia, New Jersey corridor, just because of logistics. And so we'll support that center from up here, and our intention would be from Greenworks MRF is to send our plastics down there. What it allows us to do, if we collect this plastic and process all this, the MRFs no longer have to separate the various plastics. We can put all that together in the polymer center. So it's the only one of its kind in the country. It's a European technology that we have exclusive to, and we're pretty excited about that. We plan to open our first center next year. So it's very exciting. So when you think about, I know I'm recycling all my bottles and containers, they really only have one use right now, and then they're kind of a permanent product. This would be those bottles are getting used over and over and over and over again. So it's really circular. It kind of is, for us, we see that as a major opportunity to move things to where they're being recycled multiple times and not wasted on it.
Dan, do you mind if I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
Sorry to, could you go back a couple of slides, please? I just wanted to clarify something that's a really common misconception, and understandably so, because sometimes people the media outrightly portrays it incorrectly. The slide 8, please.
Okay, yeah.
So I just want to explain that of the 6 million tons of rigid packaging, only 5% of it is recovered for circular, and 28% of it is made into sneakers or carpet or backpacks or whatever. Understand that that's not 28% of what you put in the bin. Okay, that's 28% of the total volume of rigid packaging that exists in the country, and that that number is so low in terms of what gets recycled because of how often people put it in the bin or what is available as a recycling system for consumers in their area. Okay, if you don't have a recycling system in your state, your bottles don't get recycled, right? They end up in the landfill. And if you if somebody does not put it in the bin, it doesn't get recycled. So I just want to explain, it's not 28% or 5% of what's in the bin. Okay, we do the best we can with everything that you throw in the bin. Thank you.
Yep. So we're pretty excited about that. We think it's kind of state of the art, and kind of open up opportunities in the U.S. One of the things when China saw it happen is that there wasn't a lot of opportunities for domestic processing of recyclables, and this we think will be a great fit to fill that gap so we can rely domestically. We do a lot in the communities that we support, and we have local events that our employees engage in, like this, other volunteer events that we'll support. We also do community grants. Now the second one in the middle there, where there may be some type of event sponsorship or fundraiser that we can support, within the town. We get asked to do that, and nonprofits can apply through us so we have our own Republic Grant Foundation to help them out. And those are small things. And the top one is that we have a charitable foundation where we do so many major items a year, and they could be from the kind of large scale, 100,000, 250,000. We put in playgrounds in some of the cities and towns that needed them. We've helped them upgrade some areas. That during COVID, there was in Roxbury, close by to one of our facilities, there was a minority-owned restaurant that didn't have outdoor dining. When outdoor dining was the only way to do business, we built them an outdoor dining area as part of this grant. And so there's things here that we like. We're committed to the cities and towns that we service as a partner, and there's a lot that we do. So if there's an event that or an effort that you see in the community in Wakefield, and with what you're working with, let us know if we can help out. We're more than happy to take a look at it. So tell us a little bit about what we've done here. So I can send this to you, Melissa, too. I don't want to take up all the time, but I thought I'd share that. And our question is, our question to all cities and towns is, what are you interested in? The circularity, the e-vehicles, the hazardous waste, emergency response, to those type of events. We're trying to identify what resonates, and then as we work with the city of town, how we move forward. Questions?
That's great. Thanks for sharing, and definitely send it to me after.
Yep, sure will.
So,
go ahead, Robin.
Oh, I was just gonna say, to answer Dan's last question, is that I know that last time it was evaluated, it didn't make sense financially, but I really do think that if we could have weekly recycling, that I know that my neighbors are throwing recycling in their trash in the weeks they don't have recycling because lazy, volume, who knows what, but I'd love it. So every week, Actually, I'd love it to go the opposite way, that we recycle weekly and trash every other week or something. So you really put the pressure on people knowing, and then, continue expanding compost so that, the smell is not an issue for folks that worry about that for trash. So,
Yeah.
so
and
we'd
if-
love to see that weekly recycling become financially something that Wakefields can do.
Also,
It's a-
option to provide recycling bins to residents. We provide them with trash bins. Why can't we provide them with
We
recycling?
do.
Big recycling bin, not just the little box.
the
Oh, is that
cards.
all you have right now is bins, the square bins?
That's what I was gonna say. Couldn't we switch it so that the big ones that we have, that I guess the arm was supposed to pick up, becomes recycling, and we provide people smaller ones for trash?
I mean, the larger the container that you provide, our data shows that the more recycling there is,
Yeah.
definitely.
Maybe that's what we should
And I-
focus on.
And I've got, in Watertown, we go back to, we converted to toters for bulk trash and recycling in 2014 or so. It was one of the first ones around Boston there. And they got a 65-gallon recycling toter and a 65-gallon trash toter. And, 5 years into the contract, based on the gallons that we were collecting at the curb, it was showing that all the costs were maxed out, and we had a number of city leaders saying, hey, we want to go to weekly recycling. So, well, we can do it. We go every other week now, we can do it. And, the more, so we gave them prices on that, and it wasn't viable. And, and from our standpoint, we said, you have 65-gallon carts now. I'm replacing a couple hundred every year, even though the last 10 years, let me buy the 96, the bigger ones, so that over time you're replacing these carts with bigger ones. So it took me about 4 years to get them to, about 3 years to get them to now do that. And the other thing we said is, hey, not everybody's going to want to put what we find is not everybody puts their recycling out when you have the big cart. They may put it out once a month if I'm elderly, because the recycling, if it's done right, it doesn't smell, right, if you cleaned it and rinsed it. And go out once a month. Some people are big recyclers that go out every week, and so what we worked out there was it's a big demand for the weekly. We said, okay, we'll do a second cart. Now you look at the greenhouse gas emissions. Instead of sending a recycling truck 52 weeks to your home, I'm going to continue to come 26 weeks a year to your home. But you're going to have a second cart, and then you can basically double your capacity. So we made that offering. It was really interesting because there was a big demand for weekly, and then when the time came to offer the second cart, was only a couple hundred people out of about 19,000 homes that signed up for that, but they're the big recyclers. Either have a big family or they're big recyclers. I personally have two, because we, not every week, but at least once every month or so, two was putting out two. So that's another option, because you think about the greenhouse gases and sending a recycling truck 52 weeks a year, where not everybody's going to put it out. But you're right, 100. The larger the container, the more recycling will be at the curb.
Yeah.
And if you have to think about bins and where to put it, it's a lot easier when you have the bin that has the capacity.
Yeah, I feel like offering larger totes would probably be the first step, and then like the second step we would look into weekly pickup. Because I think people would begin to recycle more if they had a bigger container to put it in on a bi-weekly basis, so we can see how that increases recycling. And then we can, look into for the next budget, what the cost would be to switch to weekly.
Yep, we've done all that, put all those type of things on the table with a lot of towns. I mean, a lot of towns are looking at that. We're looking at organics collection as well. Like we don't do it currently for any municipal contract in the state. But we've looked at it for various cities and towns and given them proposals. We do it in other parts of the country. It just hasn't been, I had to go listen to the DEP webinars last fall, because I had some of my towns saying, hey, it's being mandated. And I said, well, and it's not. And there's a misperception that it's going to save costs. It's going to save disposal of MSW costs. But in Massachusetts, the cost to dispose of organics or to process it and depackage it from a residential stream is very similar to the cost of MSW disposal. So the disposal will go down for MSW, but the cost to process organics is very similar, and the capacity is somewhat limited, but that can be worked out. The other thing, it takes another truck. There's another truck that's going to come, So there's a cost for the recycling truck to come every other week. There's a cost for an organics truck to come 26 or 52 weeks a year as well. So it's, it's all, the Commonwealth has had decrease in landfill capacity, disposal capacity for a number of years, so costs are escalating. We are railing trash, from Massachusetts, from 6 locations to our landfills in the Midwest and down south. It was more reliable and less expensive than the options here. So it wasn't. We can sustain that. So all that is. When you get all those decision points and what we just went through in recycling the last couple of years, it makes it difficult to add services. But we're more than willing to look at them and help the town explore what the cost of what might work for them.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm curious, I was looking at the survey responses from the survey we put out to businesses recently. And I wonder, are businesses subject to the same situation as multifamily, like apartment buildings, of that's up to the individual, either business or landlord, to contract for both their trash and recycling? So if they don't want to do it, they're just, it's their place to not recycle?
Yes. However, it is, I guess, there is a system by which the Department of Environmental Protection is sending an inspector to look at trash as it dumps. And businesses, I'm going to say businesses are caught more often. I certainly see a lot more businesses who get caught putting things in their trash that shouldn't be there, namely cardboard boxes being a big one. And I've seen a few housing complexes, but I have seen a lot of businesses. So,
and then what happens?
Then what happens is the inspector is seeing a truck and he writes down what truck number it is and that sort of thing. And if he can find out on the spot, it's Joe's House of Pizza that threw all the cardboard in, then he will go to, there's a log book at the transfer station that we have to keep. So on a daily basis, we have to keep a log of all of the failures that have occurred. So when there's a refrigerator in there, when there's a mattress, now it'll be a mattress in there, or yard waste or construction waste or whatever it is, we have to log it once, several times a month. The DEP inspector will come in and do the official, and when he sees that Joe's House of Pizza has failed, he'll look through that logbook and see if Joe's has failed before this. So the inspector, I'll say he because they're all he's, but has the option of 3 different types of letters. One is what I call the nice letter. Hey, did you know waste vans exist in the state of Massachusetts, right? And that's if you haven't had a prior. If the second one is called a notice of non-compliance. Hey, I see you're a regular offender. Lots of cardboard in your trash all the time, right? So I'm going to send you this letter, and it's going to say that you have 30 days to put together a recycling system. You need to get yourself some containers, you need to get some signage, and you need to train your employees or the people in your building. And you need to put all of that in writing and send it back to me as the inspector. And that's a notice of non-compliance. And technically you can ignore that, but it's a very bad idea. So, because the next thing that happens is the inspector fails you again, and Joe's House of Pizza ignored the NON, and the DEP can fine you $1,000 a load for any loads that failed between the time that he sent the NON and that next time. So it can get very pricey very quickly. So that's how that system works. And I see that every month.
Yeah, and a number of years ago, they used to find, the end site, the company that's running the transfer station or the landfill, and now they'll go after the generator. They'll research who the generator was and go back and go after them. So in that case, you could have a 10-yard container that could be full of recyclables or organics, whatever it might be, and that can, that will show up on the floor. That will show up on the floor when you dump the trash, and they'll put it jumps right out at you. It's a big issue. And you think of a front load container, a small container with lids on it. Our driver has forks in the front of the truck, and it may be 4 or 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and then they're dumping it over their head. They can't see in, and they can't go in and inspect it. A larger roll off box at a construction site or a big company, that is a large quantity. It's coming in by itself. And in cases like that, the driver can see some of it or all of it or most of it. And then in that case, we may have loads of recyclables. We say, hey, it's contaminated. We can't bring it there. We got to redirect it. It may have construction and demo in it, which is an MSW or can't be recycled as well in the same way. So, the drivers can look at the larger loads, the smaller ones, when it shows up in the plant on the floors, when we get surprised and everybody has to get involved. But to answer your question, I don't think the businesses are required to have recycling in Wakefield. I'm not sure of that. That's something you can check, I guess. And that's the case. They can contract with us or anybody else for trash, and they don't necessarily have to have recycling.
Well, they don't have to have recycling, but that's assuming they don't have anything that is a waste ban item. So if they don't create any recycling at all, like if they're literally making just straight trash, no recycling, no yard waste, no construction, no appliances, no electronic waste. Okay. So that's kind of how it works. It doesn't say you have to have recycling, but it says you can't throw those other things, those recyclables in the trash.
And that's regardless of who you are, right? Business, individual, anybody.
Right. And yes, exactly that. So we don't, the DEP inspectors don't go after individuals, but they will definitely go after businesses and institutions.
Okay.
It's entirely possible that the truck coming from Wakefield could have a refrigerator in it, and that would I would hear about that. And that's the rare case where Wakefield threw in 5 tires. Okay, well then I have to talk to Wakefield about that. I have seen that happen on occasion, but the number of letters that I've gotten over municipal loads is infinitely smaller than business loads.
Okay.
And we've been doing a single stream collection of cardboard through the DPW. I don't know if we're doing that with you guys or somebody else.
Single stream means that you're taking all your recyclables and throwing them in together. So
sorry, not single stream, sorted. Oh, there's a only cardboard boxes
gotcha.
Dumpster. Sorry.
Okay.
That's separate. If businesses are generating cardboard, they're not allowed to throw that in the trash, cardboard boxes.
Correct.
And we should be sending them to this special cardboard spot.
Or they should get their own bin, they should get their own collection container. But yes, that is the thing most likely to get you in trouble as a business. Because what happens is there's a bunch of black bags for trash, and then there's a bunch of cardboard boxes that stick out when they hit the transfer station's floor. And those boxes all have some sort of address label on them or name.
Yep.
Yeah,
right.
Really obvious. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, this has been a wealth of information, and we thank you for your time and joining us and providing the education. We'll definitely take you up on the town presentation. That'd be a perfect thing to do at our library for sure. And also the top 10 list of things, the biggest offenders. We can spread the word on that. If there's anything like specific, I know that like there's confusion on if wrapping paper is recyclable now that we're coming up to holiday season, like stuff like that. If there's anything specific for like the holiday season that we can educate people on, that would be also helpful, I think.
Okay, sure. We can send you a list of things we want. Really, for the most part, we say don't recycle at Christmas time. Like boxes are one thing, but all of the wrapping, because if it's foil, if it's glittered, if it's, you know what I mean? Like people start throwing in everything, including plastic wrap and all that. So it's gotten to the point where we just say, just the cardboard boxes will be fine, because we really, the ribbons and things like that end up as tanglers. So unless people are being really good about it, and, I always say, if you're willing to listen to maybe talk for an hour, I'll tell you the next level up, right? Like if it's plain paper or it's not foil paper, it's just plain printed paper, that's recyclable technically, but the general rule is at Christmas, yeah, the easy rule is just unfortunately trash that stuff, because people don't sort it out and we end up with far worse things than we want. But if I can come up with some sort of messaging for you on that if you'd like.
That would be great.
And we have some info like for the holidays on that you can put on your website, or the town can, and just kind of blurbs about, hey, this is coming up, and think about, think about recycling. Every month of the year, we have little things that can go on the town website.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So if you're looking for social media stuff, Dan can give you that link, and Mass Recycle is another place that has stuff going out all the time that you could just, forward, steal.
Great. Yeah, we don't want to reinvent anything. That's all right.
No. And Recycle Smart is the same way. They have a good social media presence.
That's great.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming and speaking to us, and stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Did you guys see the Republic Services truck in the 4th of July parade this year?
No.
We were in the parade. It was right behind the fire trucks and the police
Nice.
vehicles right at the beginning, so it was kind of neat. But we did have a driver, and it was great for us to be in there. DPW was excited about it. It was a brand new truck, so we're excited about it too. So it was great. And it was funny to watch it on cable, because they had the MC was a comedian, and he's going. And he used to live in Wakefield. Goes, wait a minute, how did the trash truck sneak into the front of the parade? It was pretty. And he was interviewed because the marches are way behind where the vehicles went through in the beginning. So he's like, "What's the story with the trash truck?" It was pretty comical. For us, it was really neat to see it, and the driver enjoyed it. So it was pretty neat. Thank you guys. Appreciate what you do.
My 4-year-old enjoyed it too. Trash truck is right up there with fire trucks.
Oh,
He's
very
a big
nice.
fan.
Essential workers. Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much
Thank you for
your time.
having us.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So next is subcommittee updates. And first one is waste reduction. We get to can talk about waste. So the business survey that we talked about last time is being sent out to a wider group of people through Aaron Kokinda's business list, as well as the health department's business list. So we're hoping that we can reach a lot more people and get some more survey respondents. So
no new ones since my email yesterday. We're still at 13.
hopefully they can get it out soon. And I'm still waiting to hear back on the composting grant application through the WEF fund, and should hear back hopefully within the next week. And what else?
Recycling at the middle school?
Yep, we created new sticker signs for the recycling bins at the Galvin, and I put those on the bins last week, and hoping to do some more education there to improve the recycling, because it's not going as well this year. So hoping to get some more education, and I did ask Gretchen to come in to the Galvin. We're still trying to figure that out. So work in progress. Anything else, Tiana, I missed? All right, next is land protection.
Yeah, we met last week, discussed a few things that were moving forward, but the main thing, which is pretty exciting, so we had been talking about trying to facilitate, having volunteers get involved in some of the trail maintenance, other things like that. And Judy Green has put together a proposal to do that under the auspices of the conservation department in the town, and has actually already drafted a the conservation steward handbook, and to really try to have something, and this is modeled on what some other towns do, but also very specific and for Wakefield, and looks like it would move forward. So this idea that people could basically be appointed as a conservation steward, they'd have a title, there'd be some training, and then they would, be asked to at least once a month have some area that they're walking, doing minor bits of updating and maintenance and reporting larger maintenance needs. And so our role in this as the ESC would be mostly just to help recruit people for this and educate people about it. So that'll tie in nicely with some of the things we've been talking about, also just kind of promoting what are public lands that can be used, increasing awareness of what is and is not appropriate on public lands, and some of the other things we've been looking at focus on. So that was what we spent most of our time talking about. And in the interest of time, since we have the long visitors, I won't update on all the other things unless I don't know, Julie, if you had anything that you thought was but that
No,
to
I
me
think,
was a big highlight, right?
that was definitely the highlight. It's a super exciting program. And I think it's great to be working together with the Conservation Commission on it.
Yeah, just curious if you have any thoughts on our public participants' concerns.
So he also had joined the public education subcommittee, which is not really, so I mean, I guess as individuals, we can get involved, and I'm certainly motivated to educate myself more. Like, I don't know, like, this is something though that, I mean, we can't, as our committee, be lobbying a town commission to do or not right? I mean,
I don't know where the next step is. I mean, it's not like it's coming up to it's not coming in front of anybody other than Conservation Commission. So I think whoever gave them that advice, maybe it was you, Robin. I think it really is where the permits are at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's no public hearings aside from Conservation Commission that I know of, and maybe parking, traffic, because they made some comment that they're still in negotiations on making a rotary.
They are. I have sat in on traffic advisory, and that, you're right, that has not been finalized.
So, but that's.
I don't know where it stands on MIPA. That's what I don't know where it stands on state permits.
Well, remember, they tried to get one level of state permits and the state said it wasn't applicable.
Oh, okay.
And that may have been a form of MIPA, but I actually don't know if MIPA could have multiple. That's not.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't see it quickly on their website. So,
well,
yeah. Go ahead.
Just the other public participant raised some points that seem to, have some familiarity with specific, and I don't know, I mean, I have no knowledge if any of those things would raise to the level of something that would trigger any state concerns or not, right? But like, those are the type, like, I have no idea if those things have been adequately and accurately reviewed, or, and how correct or not the example she was giving are, but if, like, it would certainly be a shame if those have not been considered.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one, right? Because they're pretty far advanced in the MSBA program, and Robin, you know better than I do. Like, I don't know what there's any outside of maybe legislative pressure. I don't know.
Well, has the design been finalized?
Yeah. I've not heard that they said it has, and I don't know how you could say that you're done without all your permits. But I also don't know how they got this far without having started it sooner. Like that approach seems like them actually submitting their NOI, notice of intent, to Conservation Commission, I think only happened in September, 2 weeks before their public groundbreaking. Which
there's definitely
shady going on. I think.
I don't think it's shady. I just think it's just the process has been it's a very complex process. I mean, I just went on their website. The last design documents they posted were in 2020.
Well, then, yeah, there's no obligation for them to post anything in general, right? Like the approach they took of putting very little out there is what they elected to do. But because it is public money, you can ask for anything under the information ask.
I mean, I think it is worth talking to Senator Lewis and just kind of understanding what the process is and what the state, I mean, I think it's either permits or it's it's kind of a legislative thing. And it's a fine line, right? Because we need this thing built. But we want to make sure that really all the options are thought about. And considered.
I wish they had more public meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Even if we can't even if they don't open it to public participation, but there's no sense of where they are behind, I don't know what kind of, so I would expect they're having some sort of regular meetings, but
Yeah, I mean,
nothing
just comparing like the
available.
high school process to like the vote process, they're like completely different. They're like one's done in a vacuum and one is being like, here it is, everything.
Yep.
But
Because they don't hold Zoom meetings either. They hold.
Well, but their building committee I can't find evidence that they're even meeting. So they may have gone from their large public group, which would have included Steve Mayo, to now a smaller group, because now it's more what we call the owner architect contractor meetings, which aren't, advertised the same way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's not coming. I mean, again, it's not coming. It's already been in front of the town meeting. We passed the budget. There's going to be a vote on the energy park at our town meeting a week from Saturday, but that's not really the same thing.
Yeah, that energy park is not going to be built where this forest is.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It cuts down,
Is the Conservation Commission the next, is that the permit that could stop this if they don't get it?
Well, there's still a building permit, although the building inspector would have to have grounds to not issue it.
Right, like it feels like the Concom has grounds to not issue it because it's a major conservation.
Well,
I sent them a message
jurisdiction's
this
only-
week with that exact question, saying, what are they able to do by right? Because if they say we can do 99% by right, then they could potentially do that work and then try to negotiate that last 1%. I just don't know enough of the rules and what they're asked, and the presentation, my screen's this big and I want to look at the drawings, big scale. So I don't know the leverage and power of them not having stuff finalized with them.
Did you go to the meeting, Robin? I assume that there were a lot of public. There was
so was it Tuesday? It was Concom.
Okay, and there was.
And the
there was a lot
agenda
of
this
public
came out, the next
participation.
one's the 15th.
What's the 15th?
The
It
next
was 2 hours long.
Concom meeting is the 15th, and it's on the agenda again. The agenda just went out today.
Okay. Well, I
So
think it's
I'll
something we
plan
follow, and I think it's okay to ask questions. And Sean, I get where you're coming from on advocating. There's really nothing, I don't know whether there's anything to advocate on or to. I guess there is on. I just don't know who it is to.
And Sean, when I sent an email to Concom, which they, I just used their public email address. I haven't heard back, but I didn't say this is a question from the committee. I did it as a resident, because I can't speak on behalf of you guys. So unless we were to issue a statement that we vote on and so forth, I think it's really an individual advocacy.
I mean, could we do that?
I think we need to know a little more, but yeah, I mean, we could.
Yeah, I mean, beyond what's the process, I guess the other thing too, when you're talking about 12 towns, like when you're comparing it to the high school, the tax dollars are all coming from Wakefield, right? So there's a real incentive for people to pay more attention, whatever, and also for people to be in the planning process to be aware of that, right? And it's kind of the cost part's divided. So, but the land use is here in Wakefield, so.
Right.
I mean, I requested, when did we do that meeting in person? They had a meeting and I spoke in person during COVID. And I said, we would like you, I invited them to our meeting so they could present the project. I kind of asked if I could be aware of some of the things related to building efficiencies and so forth. And Jen from Gas and Light also did the same. They followed up with her. They didn't follow up with me. So
Maybe we invite them again. It'd be nice to hear exactly. We've invited them to town council too. I'm not, I don't know where that stands. I mean, that alone is frustrating. Well, I'll follow up and try to find out what I can find out, and let's report back on this in November, and we can decide if there's something we want to do.
you mean December? We are in November.
I mean, December, I'm so. Yeah.
My last item to report here is also just that Open Space and Recreation Committee process is starting. The first meetings next week on the 16th. I'm our representative there, but I think anyone can go and watch, and maybe we can raise this here too, because if there is potential loss of recreation with the option they're pursuing, then that's something that certainly seems relevant there. And since that's a shorter timeline process, maybe maybe that's a way of at least making sure somebody has eyes on this.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I think we should exhaust all options. And I'm not sure who is actually, working on that in the town besides these advocates. I'm not sure the Conservation Commission is, I don't know.
I mean,
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I'll reach out to Senator Lewis. One of the public participation people said that they have done that, and I'll see what his office is saying.
Okay, thank you.
I was just gonna say that when I contacted Concom, it was with questions. It wasn't a request of their commissioners to reject anything, right? I was in fact finding, but as a resident, you can, suggest your opinion about it so they know, are people supporting them if they were to say no?
Yeah.
If that's your opinion.
Yeah. All right, next is buildings. Robin, you have anything?
Their meeting unfortunately has been overlapping with us, so I actually haven't attended one in a while, but there is another public meeting and site visit. When is that? The 17th is the next public building committee. And is that the one they're doing the tours also, Julie? I think so.
Yeah, my husband's standing right here. He must have just gotten off the call. So yes, the 17th
That's the tours.
at the high school. So they're actually giving tours of the high school.
Yeah.
A public forum, and then students are walking people around the high school.
So that's, I mean, since we last met, they submitted the schematic design package. I've downloaded it. I haven't looked at it. They have also, the project has been presented to the MSBA's facility committee. So as part of MSBA, they check in kind of what things are looking like. They did not speak favorably about how much parking was visible from the street. So we will. We'll see.
So they didn't like how much parking was visible from the street?
No, it looked like a strip mall was the quote I heard from one of the people on the committee.
14th is the meeting, Monday.
Is
Not
Tom
the
reacting to that? No.
Tom is saying it's the 14th, not the 17th.
Oh,
Monday
did it
night.
move?
That's what they sent us on the calendar.
That's what he has on his calendar.
On a Tuesday? Maybe that's, I'm
It's a
probably
Monday.
defaulted
14th
it.
is a Monday, which is weird. That's town council night too.
7 p.m. to 8.
Oh, 7 to 8 on the 14th. We'll clarify that.
Starting the cafeteria.
Starting in the cafeteria.
Why is my? Sorry, my computer is telling me the better. So other than that, I don't have anything else to report.
Okay, next is volunteers, Dan.
Okay, so, yeah, actually, I've been, been away for about 3 weeks. And I just got back with a flurry of emails and answers and so forth and so on, but it is progressing. I sent the draft letter to Melissa, and she gave me some edits that I will incorporate, and then sent out to the prospective volunteers that have signed up. The next step is I will contact all of the subcommittee leads and ask them to put together their volunteer requirements. So I can match the desires of the volunteers with the actual requirements that we have. Tiana. All right, there you are. So you did a Google Docs on the original sign up with the QR code, so forth and so on. I will get back to you with some modifications to that, specifically for volunteers and not just for people who want to be informed and so forth. There's just a few minor changes and so forth, so I'll get to you with that. And
Are
that's
you
about
still
it.
looking to use that? I thought that was just for the tabling events.
Well, so Melissa suggested, so I have a volunteer sign-up sheet, which uses an MS Word form that they fill out, that they can email or they can drop off at town hall or whatever. But Melissa had kind of indicated that it might be easier for people to use the Google Docs, and I can actually put a QR code in the information letter that I'm sending out to the volunteers, and they can just click on that and then go to the Google Docs, and then we have the information that we need. So I'll follow up on all of that within the next week or so, and then send out the letters, and then get the information from the subcommittees, and then make the matches from there. There's also an Excel sheet that I created with 2 tabs. One of them shows all of the volunteers with the best translation that I could get from their lousy handwriting, as far as their addresses and email addresses and phone numbers and stuff like that. And hopefully I can reach out to them. The other tab has the ESC priorities and subcommittees and leads and information like that, so that it's easy to match between what the subcommittees need and what the volunteers are looking for and so forth and so on. Now, as far as the volunteers are concerned, I'm just coordinating what's going on. It will be up to the subcommittee leads to engage the volunteers and to kind of manage them, to drive them to get them interested in what's going on, and to process the information that's coming back from the volunteers. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Next is greenhouse gas inventory, and Chris is not here, but we're still plugging away at getting all the data to fill in the inventory tool. So gathering some data from DPW and the schools and some transportation information. So still plugging away, but hopefully we can get it filled in by the end of the year, and then we can figure out next steps on what we're going to do with it. Julie, any updates on the green communities? Did we get officialized?
Nothing official or unofficial. Honestly, I haven't heard anything. I think since we last talked, they came back with maybe 1 or 2 other questions. Jen's been chasing it down, but
I heard some other towns announce that they had gotten the green communities designation, so I'm just wondering, like, is that,
Really?
yeah,
Hmm.
some towns like down near the Cape. Like, I don't know, I just like heard something on NPR, like local news about it. I was like, why did they get it? and We haven't.
Yeah, it's supposed to be rolling now. They might have been in a little earlier than us.
Oh, okay, so it's not like a
So
group.
I wouldn't worry too much about it, but I will, it is a good reason to call up and say what's going on.
Yeah, because we won't be able to get any grant money until we're like official, right?
Right. Yeah, it looks like the last official press release they did was still the end of last year, so. The legislation did allow a few towns, like Reading, like there's a few municipal utilities that cover more than one town, so they might have just been saying they now are eligible for it because of the legislation, something like that.
I think it was that they were designated green community.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I will follow up.
Tiana, education.
Yeah, so we've been continuing to do a bunch of awareness raising posts and figuring out what things get eyeballs. Certainly a lot of them recently have been about pumpkins and other ways of waste reduction. We also, could I share a screen for just a second and show our updated programs and tips page? In case folks hadn't seen it yet. So off of our main committee page, the programs and helpful tips, Jen got all of our great content. So there's so much content, there's a table of contents now with sustainable energy resources, weatherization, whole bunch of stuff about recycling and how to recycle all sorts of hard to recycle items. Now, inspired by today's presentation by Republic, we'll certainly add some more stuff here. Then we've got some land use tips and some sustainable transportation tips. So thanks to everyone who contributed stuff to it, and we can keep adding things over time. I've got a couple of additional edits to send to Jen. Just wanted to share that. That was updated.
Tiana, they finally got the PACE website up. I don't know whether you heard about that, which is the so yeah, we passed it. We're one of the first towns in Massachusetts to pass it, and I've been after them. So I will send you the link to that, but they should definitely connect that. That's for businesses to finance sustainable energy.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, would love to add that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we've been working on getting approval for having Sean host an email distribution list so that we can better get word out to folks. So I think we've got approval for setting that up and can go ahead and do that and then start promoting it so that, it'll still be probably a very similar group of folks as those who like and share our Facebook posts, but different people consume their information in different ways. So just trying to make sure we reach everyone with anything that's important. So.
Yeah, I don't think, and yeah, we did get the thumbs up that the system I was suggesting that we could use would be acceptable from the town's point of view. Yeah, I don't think we'll get a huge reach that way, but I think it's a way to engage folks, particularly maybe a certain type of working professional who organizes their life around email. And this is the way to get, to get a higher level of attention from, so I think it's worth doing. And then the other thing we had discussed was also, do we want to get ambitious and go to Twitter with some of our things? And it looks like that we can do that if we want. And I had gotten some tips from Jen about how we would proceed, but the town doesn't really do much on Twitter. But Twitter would be the other platform that we could do things on. I don't know if people have a general feeling about that, but.
As far as the email list goes, how's that gonna work?
Well, I'll set up I'll set up the list and we'll subscribe the people who've already provided their information. We can set it up so that people can self-subscribe themselves, as well as when we're doing other events and we collect more email addresses, we can add things to it. So we can do that manually, and I'm happy to do that part. People can add themselves. But then in terms of sending things out, it's probably best if we send some stuff out from the ESC email account. So if you don't mind adding more people to who has access to that, so that we can send things, but you just send it to this one e-list address, and it then manages sending to everyone else. The other benefit of this listserv software is that we can set that up to archive all the emails as well, because that's just a requirement from the town's point of view. If they get a freedom of information request, that they need to be able to respond if somebody wants to know, all the emails that the ESC sent out. So, if it's on that listserv, we can provide it there as well as to the ESC account.
So this isn't like a MailChimp or Constant Contact. This is some other program that they use.
No, it's hosted at Tufts, and it's just an e-list platform that lets you manage emails and archive the emails that go over the list. And then you have different moderation options. Like, do you just want do you want a member of the list to be able to send to the list? Do you want just certain people to send to the list? Is it more of a broadcast list or discussion list? That type of thing. It's very old school, like it's like the listserv stuff that you might have been using 25 years ago, but it's still, it gets used for a lot of things. Particularly, research community stuff where you might have 1,000 people signed up across the country or across the world, those types of things where it makes sense to have broadcast lists. So just another way of reaching out to people with the same stuff that we're sending out here or posting on the town's website.
I can give you that email account information.
Great, thanks.
And then to answer your question about Twitter, I don't use it. Given the change of ownership, I think maybe we should pause and see what its future is before we start using it, but that's just my opinion.
I'm a huge Twitter fan, but I couldn't agree more. I think we need to wait and see where it goes.
Agreed.
Happy for that not to be our priority in terms of all the things we have to spend time on too.
Okay, thank you. Next is member group updates. So as far as the student solicitation goes, I sent our recommendation to Sherry, and it's going to be voted on at the next town council meeting next week, I believe. So hopefully we can get that squared away soon.
Can I?
Yep.
So just to remind folks, when we got that email from Melissa and people responded, you actually can't do a group response because that can be seen as deliberation. So when you get those kind of questions, you have to not hit reply all. Just a reminder.
Eileen, do you have any updates for us?
Hi, yeah, so at the end of the last school committee meeting, Dustin came on, who's the new food service director. And if anyone has time to watch the 2.5-hour meeting, but if you just skip to the end, I think it's about like 2 hours and 33 minutes. I'm able to ask him about it, about the greenware. He said that it would be a cost difference of like $350,000, which was a really big number. And so the next day he sent me a spreadsheet. I'm not sure what company he's reaching out to. That was not clear. But he said he's happy to come to a meeting and discuss with everyone, kind of where he's at. I know I spoke with Melissa, via email, and she had said she had spoke with Doug about possibly getting like actual trays, like where you would like dish, send them out to be washed and stuff like that. So that's probably another option, and I would assume a little bit cheaper. I'm not really sure why the cost was so high, but I'm happy to. I'm on my phone, so I apologize. I'm not on a computer, so I can't share the spreadsheet, but I know Melissa has it. I don't know if you want to bring that up, Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, the spreadsheet, there's like no labels, there's just
Yeah.
a bunch of numbers, so it's hard to understand what's
Yeah,
there. But
I mean,
like,
if anything, it just shows how cheap styrofoam is, like the very big cost difference, I guess. And obviously, like, I know that's an issue, but
yeah, I mean, it's a town bylaw that the schools are not abiding by.
Right.
So, and I noticed recently at the Galvin that they have gone backwards and they're now using styrofoam trays again when last year they weren't.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Dustin said he's happy to come on a call and discuss with everyone and chat about options and all that. So
I think we take them up on it. I think we just need to understand what's going on.
Yeah. I'll definitely reach out to him and with the
You'd
new
be our
meeting
next
date.
special guest.
Yes, exactly.
And is he across all the schools or just the Galvin?
He's across all the schools in Wakefield, and the last food service position was shared with Reading. That's not the case this year. It's just Wakefield.
So I'm assuming he probably has less budget then.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Or less buying power because it's less volume.
Right. And I mean, I'm trying to think of his start date. I think it was like right before the school year started. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but
it's such a different story than we heard from the last person in charge of food services. Like, she felt like we were really close. She couldn't quite pull the trigger, but she felt close. And now we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Something just doesn't sound right.
I know. It just seemed so extreme. Like when he said that cost difference. I mean, like I said, feel free to go to hear the exact, how he said it.
Yeah,
but it was a little shocking. And it was also 2.5 hours into the meeting. And I was kind of like, huh? Am I hearing this right? So
yeah, basically he was just blaming it on supply chain issues.
Yeah, he was blaming it on supply chain issues and just the cost of the greenware itself, but I can't imagine it being that much. So I don't know.
Well,
and maybe he's only reaching out to one company. I mean, it seems like he's only kind of been pricing that out. So I'm sure you guys have an idea. You probably have a list of companies that maybe we can, give him to call and get some quotes for.
Yep.
Melissa, does the school or the school system have to reapply for their waiver? It expires, doesn't it?
What the waiver process is. I don't think anybody knows what that process is. I've asked. Because originally it was just when, the bylaw period enforcement started. And yeah, I've asked, about the ongoing, if they have to reapply, and I haven't really gotten an answer.
Was it just waived because of during COVID? Is that?
Yeah, so we delayed the enforcement because we're giving businesses and everybody a break because of COVID. So.
Oh, okay.
So it was delayed start, but yeah, it's not clear to me what the waiver process is. But Julie, I don't know if, I think we had talked about meeting with the health department.
Yeah, and I saw Anthony, I guess, at Town Day, and then I've been in and out of town for a few weeks. So, Melissa, I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Let's try to get that on the calendar.
Yeah. Well, I know that Erin told me that she had met with the new health inspector about the bylaws, and
okay,
so they're getting on the same page there.
Okay.
I just want to make a comment here. You know, it is still the start of the school year fundamentally, and maybe he just is busy, overwhelmed or something else like that. And you know, he may not have this as one of his high priorities per se. So, you know, maybe approach him again and say, can we help you do this type of thing? You know, what do you
Yeah.
need help? And see what the response is at that point in time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, good point.
Anything else, Debbie?
No, I don't think so. It looked like the pumpkin collection went really well, and lots of happy families and faces, and people said that they were like really excited to drop them off. I saw people's pictures online too and everything, so it was cute.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping us promote it.
Yeah, no problem.
So no DPW member. Not sure why they haven't been coming to our meetings, but I'm gonna find out. Julie, any updates?
I don't think so. I mean, just that the energy park is gonna be, town meeting is next Saturday, the 19th. I think it's 8 AM, but I'm not sure about that, maybe 9 AM. There's only 6 warrants on there, so it shouldn't be a super long one, but 2 important ones being the new school has to pass in order to get to a ballot in January, so that's really important. If you have an interest in a new school, to come out for that. And the energy park related to both high schools. The easement for that will come up as well. And there's a good presentation from the MLD to the town council on that from a few weeks ago. The other thing, we're expecting to have the bike ped plan presented pretty soon. I don't know, there's on this agenda for next week but we should have that, and then that will be another document that we can use going forward. And then if anybody hasn't filled out their master plan survey, the deadline's the 18th. And this one is on climate, sustainability, and transportation. So it's one that is of interest, hopefully, to people who come to this committee.
Yeah, I sent everybody that.
Yep.
Link to that.
Yeah. That's it.
Julie, do you know, does the town ever do things for childcare at the town meeting? Like, are there babysitters or anything like that for those of us who are going to bring kids who are not going to be at all interested in the town meeting topics?
We have,
Why would they
the
be?
Boys and Girls Club has in the past. When it was in the evenings. I mean, I will tell you, these Saturday morning ones, people just have been tending to bring their kids.
Right, just like let them
It was
run
a little
around.
easier when it was outside too, but I don't think we're gonna have the outside tent this year.
We'll bring some toys.
Yeah. I have
You won't be the only one
I have a
that's- kids
babysitter
that-
if you need one.
Kids go in the
Actually, no, I need her
corner.
there to vote too. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, you could start a kids corner.
Exactly.
Roll out some big paper.
I mean, there
won't
is
be
a
the
lot
only
of
one.
room oh no, we're back at the Galvin.
Oh, we
Sorry,
are?
we're back at the Galvin. Yeah, it's gonna be, you sit up in the left, sit up in the back. Really fun.
Okay. In the gym or something? Oh,
Yeah, no, in the auditorium.
Oh. Okay.
The farmer's market's the same day, by the way. Folks are able to
I
go afterwards.
know.
Yeah.
Hopefully
what's
we'll
up
be
with
done
that?
fairly early and we can make both.
Okay, thank you. We don't have Tom either, so that is it. So next meeting is December 8th. Is there any conflicts there that you guys know of?
I'll be traveling for work, so I won't be able to come then. But I could still invite Dustin to that if you'd like. I just won't be there.
Yeah, probably you should be there when he's.
Yeah, I think so too. Let me see if he'll come in January.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll ask, if you, would you know a January date by off, just by looking?
Well, we usually meet the second Thursday of the month.
Okay, so I'll reach out to him about January. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no
I have a
problem.
big conference in December.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so motion to adjourn or any matter not anticipated?
Second,
Okay,
No, who first motioned?
what?
No, I
okay.
don't, I
I
think
got
Melissa was calling for one, so Dan motioned. I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, Tiana,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Dan,
yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
and Sean.
Yes.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Have a good
everyone.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.